Hey, good to see you. Today we're going to be talking about starting before you're ready. So this is a really, really big key of being creative and being productive, right? Making things happen. I learned this when I was storytelling with my kids when they were younger. And I'll get into that in a moment. But the reason why we're talking about this today is someone just talked about in the Let's Create Tuesday online creativity group last night about they were having success. They finished the first chapter of their book, but then they were concerned about, do they know enough and will they have enough to continue on? And so that led to a conversation, an idea, and we're going to expand on this today, right now, about starting before you're ready. And when I was a younger man and my kids were younger, driving around in the car, I would tell them stories. And I started with all these stories that I knew. Star Wars, Little Red Riding Hood, whatever it was. Burned through those pretty quickly. And then they'd be like, tell me a story, tell me a story. What I would do I'd be driving and I'd pause, right? And I would think about the story and then I would start. And then I'd get to a certain point and I would pause again. And they would be in the back seat and they were young, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. And they would just be hammering me. Tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. And I literally could not think, right? And I didn't want to yell because that would destroy the moment. We're actually creating a moment. So I got to this point was like, just keep talking. And at first it was like, all right, fine. I'm going to tell a really bad story and I'm just going to keep talking. You won't let me think about it. Fine. So I would just say stuff and I would say stuff and I'd be like, oh, this is going nowhere. And then somehow I kept going, it would work itself out. And what happened was started doing this enough times that I started to trust it. That something would always come together, something bizarre, interesting. Sometimes the stories were good, sometimes they were okay. First draft in the car. So don't get crazy, right? First draft, the only reason why we write is to rewrite, right? Okay? But there was a trust that was started building myself. Was like, oh my gosh. And then I started playing with, okay, let me see if I can actually try to mess myself up. Like make this so difficult and so weird and so impossible for the hero, right? Or for the rabbit or the snake or whatever the main animal was that day. And then something would happen. And then, the first stage was, I can't do this. I can't do this fast. Next stage was, all right, I'll move faster and start before I'm ready, but it's all going to be terrible. Then it started working out. And so then it moved into trust. Stage 3 was trust. Then stage 4 was, I was actually starting to look forward to it. Like I was like, I wonder what's going to happen today. I wonder what's going to be the story. Okay, so now let's approach this from a different angle. Because you may have heard start before you're ready, okay? But I've never heard anyone say, when we say start before you're ready, talk to your boss about what you want to do, your next steps. Go talk to an investor before you've got everything in line. Ask the person out before you've got it all totally rehearsed and you know exactly what you're going to say. Start the relationship, right, before you've planned your 2, 5, 10, 50. Amy and I have been married we've been together for over 25 years. Did we know what was going to happen at year 5? Do we know what was going to happen at year 10, right? And no. I like you, you're cute, I like hanging out with you, I like talking about science fiction, I like talking about spirituality stuff. Oh, you're a seeker too, you want to grow? Let's grow together. Like little did we know what that meant, let's grow together, right? Anyone that's been in a short-term or a long-term relationship knows stuff is going to come up that you never ever anticipate, right? So there's just a little bit of confidence, there's a little bit of trust, and then ideally, and this is where it relates to creativity too, is you can either go panic and fear of like, oh my gosh, this is coming up, I didn't even know, what are we gonna do? Or you approach it more with adventure of like, wow, I didn't even know this stuff was gonna come up. What are we gonna do? This is really interesting. How are we gonna be better people? Who do we wanna be? Who do we wanna grow into? Who are we called to be to achieve our goals and have the relationship we really want, right? So when I say start before you're ready, who's not ready? It's a good question. Like, who is not ready? Because when I was telling the story in the car, right, and I just kept going, I was ready. I mean, it came to me, right? I had access. Inspiration happened. I was surprised. The kids were pleased. It went forward. In a relationship, I'm not ready to have a relationship, right? My parents had a terrible relationship, God bless them. My wife's parents didn't have such a great relationship. Totally not good in totally different ways, but then you throw us together when our whole conscious and unconscious upbringing is in not wonderfulness, right? So we were not ready to do this. So we did it though. And we just continued to learn and be inspired and whoa, what's going on? And what do I do next, right? When I wrote Space Spiders on prom day, I got to the point where I thought about it for a while, right? So I wrote. And then I got to this point, maybe the end of the first act, because I'd studied story structure, so that sort of helped me step back at times to sort of see where I'm at. But then I was kind of like done, and so I started thinking again. And since I had the experience with the kids in the car, I realized I had two options, probably a lot of options, but the two options that I was thinking of was I can spend time and think about what I'm going to write, right? I can spend another 6 months, year, 2.5 years, because that's what I've done at times, right? I think, oh, I need to think. I got to figure this out before I start. Or I said, what do I need to do? How can I be courageous enough? How can I shift into writing and starting without even know the ending? And I wasn't even talking about just the ending of the story. I was talking about how can I start writing a sentence when I don't even know how the sentence is going to end? That was a whole new way of being for me. What would it take inside? What would I need to allow? How could I allow myself to start writing a sentence when I actually don't even know how that paragraph or that sentence is going to end? And it was a little bit scary, and it was also so much more freeing, and it was so much about the present. And I talked to people about being on a hike, right? Some people, when they go on a hike, they're like, yeah, we're going to do the big trail loop. It's 1.2 miles. We start here. We're going to go around here. We'll stop here and see this. Some people are like, we're just going to the top of the mountain here, and then we're going to hang out and come back down. Some people are like, I think that looks like a path. I'm not even sure. Let's just go and see where it goes, right? So there's a whole variation of what kind of outline, how much prep do you need, and everyone knows who goes hiking, talking about a hike and thinking about a hike is 1,000 times different than doing it, right? And that's the shifting that I'm doing with people with Let's Create Tuesday and one-on-one. And your opportunity is thinking and ideas about creativity, fantastic, but man, doing it. That's the way, and then the trusting and the wonder and shifting to, wow, let's see where this goes, right? So the person that needs to, that isn't ready, it just hasn't been trained yet. Is maybe present day personality, maybe our ego, but it's not bad. It's just we haven't had the experience enough. And then once we have that experience of creating over and over again, and trying and taking that risk, doing improv, right? Asking people out, doing presentations, whatever it is we do in life that continues to expand ourselves, right? Then we start to relax and we trust. And then and we have the confidence, and then we actually even look forward to it, which is awesome, which is a totally fun, right? So now when I go to write, all I need is 1 or 2 sentences, and if I don't even have those, then I'll read what I just wrote and then just start writing, and we'll see how it goes. Sometimes I have specific points where I want to hit or where I think I'm going, totally cool, but all those individual points, like going on a hike. I don't know exactly which branch I'm going to step over. I don't know if there's going to be a tree over a ravine. I'm going to go halfway out and then freak myself out and then come back, right? Or if there's some rocks, am I going to go around the left side or the right side? That's part of being creative, and that's part of living life, right? I would have never guessed all the twists and turns and where I'm at with the relationship with Amy, right? There's no way to outline that. And the people that I know who try to do that or are totally fearful, they never start a relationship, right? or they get into it and they're like, oh, this is the way it is, as opposed to relax, open up. There's new possibilities everywhere, totally everywhere. The way that I want to end this video is sharing with you a phrase that I started when I was writing my first novel. And when I would approach my laptop in the morning, right, I had a very simple ritual: turn on one light, turn on the other light, sit down, and I always, if it was cold, if it was wintertime writing, I'd have my slippers out, a sweatshirt out, sometimes a robe or sweatshirt that I would throw on, or a blanket. But I set those out the night before, right? Set yourself up for success. I had the laptop open, totally at the place in the story where I was at. If I was doing a rewrite, those notes were out. So I'd get up in the morning, turn on one light, turn on the other light, sit down, hit the space bar, be ready to go. And I had a phrase that I would say as I walked in towards the computer in the morning. It was, the time for thinking is over. The time for thinking is over. Now, thinking is awesome and thinking is great. But thinking, I found, about a story or a creative project or building a company or whatever that is, there's a time when the thinking is over and you take action, you just start creating and you see what happens, right? The time for thinking I found is best is going for a walk, taking a shower, driving, right? Those are great times to think. The brain just sort of, and sometimes I would be playing with my kid, second kid when he was younger, and we'd be playing and he would look at me and he goes, "You're not here." And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Caden. I was thinking about my story." And then I would let it go and I would come back, and then I'd come back and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm here now." And then we'd continue. But he could just tell by looking at me, right? There was a part of my brain somewhere else, right? So I'd have to bring myself back. Those are the times for thinking. Sometimes, if you want to create specific thinking time, fantastic. But when there's time it's to write, to create, right? If you're playing sports, if you're making out with your significant other, the time for thinking is over, right? It's time to be in the flow, in the inspiration, in the energy, see what happens. Enjoy that. And let's be really clear. Starting before you're ready is not rushing. Okay, so let's say that again. Starting before you're ready is not rushing, right? So if I'm going out hiking and feeling a little adventurous and we say, hey, that kind of looks like a path, let's go see where that goes. And then we take off at a sprint, right? As fast as we can and rush into the woods or over the cliff, right? Or into some kind of pricker bush type thing, right? We wouldn't do that. You wouldn't take off as a full sprint into a place that you don't know, right? Same with, like, wow, I've been thinking about asking him or her out, right? And you're like, what am I waiting for? You know what I mean? I could wait another 2 years, right? Like I did with the last person I wanted to go out with, and then they started dating someone else. So I'm going to go ask them out. I'm not going to walk over to them and propose to them to get married, right? That's ridiculous, right? So moving, taking action before we're ready is different than rushing. We're not talking about rushing, all right? So relax and just try it out, give it a whirl. I'm sure if you're already creating and moving forward on some of your goals, you already know what I'm saying. So oftentimes when I say things out loud, people I'm working with are like, they get it at another level. So encourage you to keep trusting yourself, have some fun. There's so much more inspiration and creativity that is part of you, that you are tapped into, and I encourage you to just keep allowing that and having fun, and start before you're ready.